Hello everyone. So we are going to begin chapter 3 of our book, and in this chapter mainly we are going to talk about if statement and decision making. So we will learn how to program simple and complex decision and apply what we learned to the task of like checking user input, for example. And the if statement actually allows a program to carry out different actions depend on the nature of the data to be processed. And the main two keyword in this kind of concept, this if statement concept, is if and else. So this is a kind of conditional blocks that enables branching behavior. And the I will show you the basic structure of if statement, and then we will go through the more complex kind of decision making using the if statement. Okay, so let's say, for example, we are talking about elevator in buildings, and buildings often skip floor 13. I don't know if you know that or not. And elevator, so if they are skipping 11 13, their elevators also should do the same thing, right? And so all of a sudden from floor 12, they are going to go to floor 14 instead of 13. So the floor 13 is actually really the floor 13. So every floor above 12 is really floor minus 1. So 14 is 14 minus 1. 15 is 15 minus 1. Okay, so let's see how we can plan this and make a kind of example like this using if statement. Okay, so we are going to obtain the floor number using input. Do you remember input output function? Okay, so how we do that? We are going to write down floor equal to int, means it's going to convert the input to integer, and input the floor that person is going to request, right? And then we are going to adjust the floor numbers using conditional statement. So we call if a statement the conditional statement, right? So how we do this, we say if, and look, this is a green color, means it's a what is that, reserved word, right? Floor greater than 13. So we are saying if the floor is greater than, if the floor that the user input is greater than 13, then do this. Do what? So first of all, after writing the statement front of if, so this is the statement, right? We are going to enter, and as you see, we have indenting here. So as soon as if statement, we are indented one tab. So you do this, enter, it's going to create one tab distance from the beginning of the line, and then you are going to write down the what you want the program to do. So we are creating the variable named actual floor. and this actual floor is going to be floor minus 1, right? So what happens when the floor exceeds number 13? We are going to decrease each floor by 1, right? Decrease the floor number by 1, because we said they don't have number 13, right? So anything above 13 is going to be subtracted by 1. And then here when I entered, it needs me to write down the next decision, but I don't have a decision now. I want to go to the else condition. So what else condition does? So for both else and if, I'm going to have what is that? Colon after my statement. So for else, I don't have a statement, but sometimes we have a statement. If we have another statement, if we are categorizing our statement, we are going to use else if. So else if gives us opportunity to categorize our decision, right? But when we have just only two conditions, one is going to go front of if, another is going to be whatever that this condition is not. So whatever this condition is not means whatever floor is less than 12. All the floor less than 12, right? So I'm going to comment this out. This condition means everything everything else, actually that's much better if I write down everything else, means not floor greater than 13, which is floor less than 13. Correct? Okay. So this is a decision or expression front of else that we don't have, but in reality the decision is this one, right? And then else, whatever else happens, we are going to perform this. Now the actual floor is going to be unchanged, right? It's going to be floor itself. And then after all of this, now print this statement. The elevator will be on floor. Which floor? This one. So it's going to apply this, and then at the end it's going to print out the result, right? And then as you see, this is not indented, means after choosing either this condition or this condition and applying the actual floor, oh actually the result is going to be at the actual floor, sorry. So after applying all this condition, now at the end it's going to print out the result of actual floor. So let's run this. So it's asking us the floor, what floor you are going to. If I enter 14, the actual floor must go to this condition. So I'm entering 15, right? 15 is greater than 13. So we are going to stay here in this part of condition, right? So if floor is 15, it's going to do this. Actual floor, which is a new variable, is equal to floor minus 1, right? So the print out the result will be 14, right? So let's see what happens. Yes, the elevator will be on floor 15. And now let's do this again. I'm going to enter 10. So if 10 is entered as a floor number, so it's not going to pass through this part of condition, right? So 10 is less than 13. So it's going to it's not going through this. It's going to skip this part and go through this part, the else condition, and then floor, actual floor will be equal to the floor that we are entering, means the elevator will be on floor 10, right? Good. So there's one problem, I think. Let's apply this. So what about floor 13? If I enter this is going to print out the 13, right? Why? Because this is going to go through the else condition, because when floor is not 13, it's not greater than 13, it's going to be either 13 or less than 13, right? And that is the situation that happens, and we may need to fix this using else if condition. Later on we will talk about else if condition that gives us another category or another category to make our kind of conditions more kind of detailed using else if. Okay, so now we can go through another example, like if x is equal to 100. Let's say if x is greater than 10, don't remember the colon, print x greater than 10. So here I was asking the user to enter input, right? But here I am initializing the value already. So I'm not asking for any input, right? Okay. So else, do you remember? For else, we don't need condition. Why? Because it's going to do everything that is not greater than 10. X is not greater than 10. So in reality, this will be x less than or equal to. So here also less than or equal to, right? So else this happens, it's going to print, let's say, x is not greater than 10. So what do you think? Which one of these going to be printed if the initial value of x is 100? So let's run this. It says x is greater than 10, right? So it's going to go through this condition, which says x is greater than 10. So obviously x is 100, right? So it's going to go through the first condition and print out the result of this condition, correct? Now if I change this to 5, for example, obviously we are going to see the result printed out as it is here. Okay, so as you see, x is not greater than 10, right? So I'm going to print this here and then print this, let's give it 20, right? Okay. The other example, I can have, let's initialize x as 5 and then say if x is greater than 10, print x is greater than 10, and then after this is done, print next. Let's make it. So what happens here? So it's going to read x, initialize x, the value x is 5, right? If it is 5, means it's not going to pass through this one, right? And then we don't have else condition. So what happens? It's going to pass this, ignore the whole thing, and then just print out this one, right? So let's see. It's just printing next. It is going to pass this print statement and go to the next. So if x is 25, what happens? So it's going to print this one and this one, because after it's done with this statement, it's going to go through the next statement, right? It's going to print this statement and go to the next. Look at this. It's going to do both things, right? Well, another actually example. Okay, so the next example is inline if statements. A variable is often assigned a value that depends on a Boolean expression, and we already talked about Boolean expression, right? So this can be coded using an if-else statement. If a value is true, for example, do this. If the value is wrong or false, go to the else condition. Okay, so example of that. Let me make a markdown and then inline if statement. Okay, so if I have x equal 7, right? And so this is a form of actually what I talked about, but let's talk more about that. If x is greater than 2, don't forget colon, then do this message to, and then else the message will be or equal to 2. And then after we come out of the statement, we are going to print the message. So what's going to be the message here? It's going to be this one, right? Because it's going to check the x value and see it's greater than 2, and then it's going to be here. And then in case that in case that x is 0, it's going to go here. Okay, so this was the last example, this, and then we are going to go in line. Okay, so let's say x is equal 5, then our message says x is positive if x is greater than 0, else x can be negative. or 0. So this is an inline if statement. I probably should bring this up, or actually let's bring this one down. Okay. So let's see what happens now. Oh, I didn't print the message. Okay, x is positive, right? It reads x equal 5. Go through the if statement. First of all, it's going to see the message, and then if x is greater than 0, this is going to happen. Otherwise, this is going to happen. So this is the other kind of if statement. Call this inline if statement. Okay, so another one, if two conditions are nested. So let's say we have x equal 0. Then print x is positive if x is greater than 0, else x is negative. Now, x is negative if, so this is nested, right? If x is less than 0, else, now we have another message, x is 0, right? So what happens here, we have two whole scenario. One is this one, right? If x is positive, if x is greater than 0, it's going to print this message, right? Else x is either negative or equal 0, right? So this is the next scenario. Let me actually include else. This is the next scenario, right? In the next scenario itself, we have two scenarios. Okay, so if x is really less than 0, print this. If x is not less than 0, just one option remains, x is equal 0, right? So this is the way nested if works. So if x is equal 0, it goes to this statement first of all, and then from this statement, it's going to choose this one, right? And let's say x is -2. So what happens? It's going to go through this statement, and then it's going to go to this condition. So it's going to print out x is negative, like this. Now, I have a participation point for you. Here, question. Assuming that variable balance has a value of 1200, what is the value in variable rate after the code segment below is executed? So rate equals 0.5 is a variable, right? Then I have a if condition balance greater than 1000. Well, this one should I use tab, and then rate equal to rate plus 0.25. Okay, So do this to see what is the result of this if statement. What else? Let's see if I have one more for you. Okay, the next is which expression is the correct condition for the if statement in the following code segment. The code is intended to add 5 to variable shipping cost if the value of variable weight is at least 10. Okay, so we have if, and here is the statement you should fill in, and then here is the statement that, so where is the shipping cost? Here shipping cost is equal to shipping cost plus 5. So you should see what is the result, what is the statement that goes here. Okay, so I will continue in the next video talking about conditional statement. Take care of yourself.